So the first question is, yeah, just why you chose to trust a random stranger on the internet to save your marriage.
I was desperate. It was it was kind of a last chance I saw for our marriage, and the videos really spoke to me. I probably looked at dozens of them, but each one of them just made sense. I had never done anything before where the focus was on me rather than on the relationship.
Yeah.
And we have tried over the years, almost 30 years we've been married. We had tried couples counseling a few times.
Mm.
Um, each of us had tried therapy a different time. My wife did a course called Making Relationships Work, MRW, which kind of followed the Gottman model, um, a lot of that, which was very helpful for her. But again, that was focusing on her and her growth rather than the relationship. And I did some of that. Some of that made sense. I think the Gottman resolution, or yeah, I guess it would be like conflict resolution model really works. So we've used some of that. But this really spoke to me, and it was best thing I ever did. It really was. We were near the end. So this was kind of the last. My wife had asked me over the years, like, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? What are you going to do? And I tried therapy, and you're a therapist, so I apologize, but every time all I heard from the therapy, all I really got out of it was I would go in and speak, and they, kind of, oh yeah, tell me how you feel. That really didn't do anything for me. I didn't get any practical advice. This was the first practical advice I ever got.
Yeah, it's less directive in therapy, right? It's more about
Hmm.
non-interference, and it's more for people who want to explore their kind of like path, but like in a situation in crisis, um, there has to be solutions, right? Like there has to
Yeah.
be proven thing, to get you to your goal, essentially what you want. And so what's,
Hmm.
if you don't mind sharing, what was there a conversation with your wife? Like, oh, did she mention divorce? Did she mention separation? Was there moving out? Was there separate bedrooms? Like what actually incited for you to actually seek out help?
Yeah, so there was a separation, ask for a separation, and that was we had done, I think in the past couple of years, it was a spiral downward, and in the past couple of years there was little kind of quasi separations. One of us would go to another room in the house for a couple of weeks, and then
Mhm.
we'd have some conversations through that, and we'd have like this crazy honeymoon session, jump in bed. Everything was fantastic. Crazy honeymoon session for a few weeks. Everything was good for a few months. Boom, back down. It's happened again. Um, so I think this time my wife was ready to stay in and she did stay in our beach house for as long as she could. Our beach house is in Boston, so it has to shut down in the wintertime. She stayed there as long as she could, and she called me from there and said, "I'm coming home, so I want you to get out, temporarily, just, so I said, at first I resisted. I said, no way, no way, no way. That night I went on and started listening to the videos. I think I signed up in the following week. And my first call with Jillian, Coach Jillian, she said, give her the space. And I went on to the brothers, and all the brothers said, give her space, give her space. So I took a flyer. I got an Airbnb for up in Maine for 2 months, and best thing I ever did. And I probably go on 3 or 4 times a day onto new guys who are signing up in the Brothers in Arms chats, and I tell them, get out, give her space. It's
Yep.
going to work.
Yeah.
It's the
We're
best
gonna
thing I
ex
ever did. Yeah.
we're
Yeah.
gonna expand on the importance of that and why that's so powerful. Before we
Hmm.
do, I want to now jump to where you guys are at now. So how are things going right now?
They're going much better. You know what? We still have a little bit of that honeymoon phase, and it's not all wine and roses. We still go through our tough times, but I don't see divorce in our future. We're back in the same house. Um, we do this weird thing where as the separation went on, I would go home for the weekends. So now I go home for the weekends. I go to our bedroom, and then during the week I go to a separate bedroom in the house, and that's working fine for us. We talk wonderfully. For the first time in my life, I think I'm listening rather than just hearing. Truly listening and being present for her. She told me this morning in a text after our talk last night that she thanked me for being mature during the talk. I'm 60 years old. That was the first time I've been called mature in my life, right? But it was, that to me is a win and a compliment. If I was able, to her, it meant that I was able to really respond and listen to her and not do the old get defensive and be logical approach. So yeah.
Beautiful.
So
Yes.
it's great. It's yeah, I said it to Coach Jillian. I think I've said it in a few posts too. I think this saved our marriage. It's gonna, we can talk now. We weren't able to talk before. So
And correct me if I'm wrong, but it sounds like also you recognize that the work isn't done. You're still focusing on improving and putting a lot
oh
of.
yeah. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Right. It's the work, I don't think the work's ever going to be done. I'm going to I've gone through the courses, so some of them three times, through some of the modules just to refresh, see things I missed. I don't think I'm ever going to, ever. I see this story repeating. I see my story repeating over and over with the BIAs, and and I get great advice too. I can post something, and get great advice. People like Near, Near well, and others, Theo. There's a couple of others out there who just always give you some really good advice. Um, so I don't think my work's going to be done for a long time. Yeah,
Yeah, and then we'll circle back to this as well, but you get to give other men advice, which reinforces those lessons
exactly.
yourself. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's talk about the space. So, you know, to an uninformed man, of course, logically, he thinks, well, if I move out and I give my wife space, she's going to forget about me. It's going to
hmm
ruin my chances. Why is that not the case?
I thought exactly that. I thought it was the beginning of the end. I said, if I move out, I'm never going to come back.
Hmm.
Um, when I moved out, she could breathe, right? And I could breathe and I could work on myself. And I'll tell you what I did. I went home every night and I plowed into the course. I went on every call I could. I literally went through the entire course in a month. Um, and just I filled two notebooks full of notes from calls and I mean you've got terrific people working with you and the space though really allowed both of us to grow and we had some excellent conversations on the phone that I don't think we ever would have had face to face. It's much harder to talk face to face. The phone you can hang up. We never did. Neither of us ever did. But she could hear, she could hear. I think she sensed the growth and she could hear it, and I didn't need to tell her that it she could sense it and she I never told her, hey, I'm growing, I'm getting better and all this. She just realized it. So the space gave us that.
Yeah. And there's probably a better analogy out there, but the analogy I use before was like if you guys that were dancing together, right? And it's like if you're holding her, you can't improve your own dance moves while you're constantly with her. It's like, but if you go off
Mm,
on your own, you learn dance moves, maybe dance with someone else, and you understand, not necessarily date someone else, but like you learn dance moves on your own with an instructor, you come back, you're going to be a better dancer. But you have to
yeah.
have that separation period. And to her point, to what your wife was saying, what women need is if you're a stimulus to her, if like she looks at you and she sees pain, she feels pain, like then she needs that space to literally heal her heart, right? Let her
hmm
nervous system calm down and then to come back and give you the opportunity. And that's not going to occur if you're constantly like this, which a lot of guys are, right?
That's right. That's right.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely. Yeah, I totally agree. That's I would have been a pest, if I were there and
Mm.
I would have wanted to sit down with her every night and say, hey, where are we now? That doesn't
Yeah,
work. It's
yeah.
yeah, definitely need that space. I guess, it also in my case, it allowed my wife to miss me and
Mhm.
and then invite me back. Maybe in some cases it does the exact opposite. It allows the wife to say, "Well, I don't really need this guy," or "I don't really want this guy, in my life. This is better without it." You know, um, I think probably just judging from my own experience and what I've seen, I would say that that the balance is probably like, and you would know better, like 80-20 or 90-10. The ones who 10 being the ones who decide to leave after a split, and the others decide to give it another chance and start growing.
In my history here, if a guy truly gives space and lets go and focuses on himself, yeah, I think 90/10 is pretty accurate. 90% of the time,
Mm,
wife comes back and she starts reaching out. She, especially if there's kids involved, she's gonna contact the husband about
hmm.
right. Women just have this natural innate curiosity about them, right? Is he a different man? Has he changed? Right.
Yeah.
But like if you are still trying to find excuses to reach out to her and stuff, it's that opportunity is not going to be there. So
Hmm.
that was the first step. And then let's walk through what was one lesson that you integrated or used within the program that also helped get you to where you're at.
The biggest thing besides space is being present and shutting up when she talks. And
Let's talk about that.
eh, yeah, so I would never do that before, right?
Mm.
As soon as she started, particularly in conflict situations, and I'll tell you the straw that broke the camel's back, and it's going to sound ridiculous, maybe not to you, but
Maybe not to me, yeah.
I was downstairs and I put the dishwasher soap in the dishwasher that she had loaded. She was going to sleep, and some glasses clanked as I did it, but I closed it and started the dishwasher, went up to bed, and I could see she was mad, and I could tell every guy could tell their wife after 30 years you can tell
Yeah,
she was tense. And I said, "What's the matter?" And she said, "I asked you before not to rearrange the dishwasher." And I heard you rearranging the dishwasher. And I said, and I immediately, I didn't. I swear to God, it was just, hitting glasses. And I'll come and show you. Come down with me. I'll show you. It's exactly like you left it. Blah blah blah. Immediate defense, immediate, logic, defense, and that's the straw that broke the camel's back. She said, that's, why did you argue with me? I just wanted a hug, and it was it was a hard day at work. It was blah 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 blah. You could have just ended it right there, but instead you just jumped into, defense. And so now, and this has been huge, I'm just there. And I can't tell you how many times she'll complain about something and I'll just say, and listen and say, oh, I understand how you feel. And, I understand my part in that and I apologize. And, or maybe not even that much. I'll just say, oh, that stinks, if she's complaining about something, and just acknowledge it and stop there. That's all you need to do. That's all she wanted to do, is be heard. Um, you know, as part of that, every time she talks, I stop what I'm doing, look at her in the eye and listen. And believe me, that's hard. That's 60 years of programming. I had to deprogram in the last 2 months, right? But I've made a conscious effort to do that. And she's noticed it. She said it. She said, you've really grown, because I can see that. She goes, that was really special. I was putting ornaments on the Christmas tree last week, and she came in to say something. I stopped what I was doing, and later on she said, that was really meaningful when you stopped what you were doing instead of just listening to me and kept on doing what you were doing. So,
yeah, yeah. It all comes down to a perception problem, I think. And before we dive into
mm,
what presence is, which is like your wife's emotions are not a problem to be solved, right? They're emotions to be validated, right? And so
right, right.
a lot of
Hmm.
times, like what a lot of men don't understand, right, John, is like I have this had, and you sure you do, and at times is like when she's upset, you're like, I just want to get rid of that emotion. I just need to like have her
Yeah.
be good again, and so I'll fix the thing, and so she can feel good, so I can feel good.
Hmm.
When in reality, she just wants you to understand from her perspective what's going on. But the thing is that like it's hard for you to go into her perspective when you're feeling like you're dysregulated and you need to calm yourself down. Right.
Yes.
So like
Yep.
going back to your presence idea is like when you can as a man can remain unreactive and no matter what emotion she's experiencing, you can stay kind of like locked in and good. Like
Hmm.
okay, and like her emotions aren't your emotions, that's when you
Exactly.
show up
Yeah.
better and you don't have to solve her problem. You can allow her to feel whatever emotion she's feeling. Long as she's not crossing a boundary of yours, like she can be upset
Hmm.
at something. And then you're with her and you're like, man, so like that really upset you or whatever. And she's just like, yeah. And you give her a hug and she's like, and then and ironically, her emotion goes away. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it does, right? It's, what, I did it last night. I know, and it's like it's a bite your tongue thing sometimes, because it just doesn't matter. Like she said something to me last night. I don't remember what it was, but I just remember thinking she said the exact thing opposite yesterday, but it's just not worth it, right? I just validated it and it went away. Like you said, you know what? I could have used logic and said, oh, you said the opposite thing to the day before, but it just she didn't need to hear that. She just needed to be heard. And that's, that's the second biggest lesson I've learned. And you started talking about that from the beginning of the course, it's just that the whole being present, being heard. And I carry it through to work now and everything else. I have a lot of people report to me. I just shut up now, and it's, it works. It's really helpful.
And yes, shutting up is your speaking is definitely a part of that. It's also more than that, right? Like
Mm,
a woman is subtly picking up on how you're feeling. And it shows
mm,
through your eye contact, the way your body is postured, your tone of your voice, if your shoulders are back and open. And
hmm
she's unaware of this. She's subconsciously picking up on all of this stuff, which makes her feel a certain way. And so presence is also about just like being there, connected with her. And so she craves your connection more than that your presence is
hmm
the most valuable gift you can give her, John. Like when you're there with her, looking at her in the eyes and you're not thinking anything, you're just there with her. That's
hmm
intimacy. That's connection. And so a lot of men, what they don't understand is that when they're going into their head to figure out because they can't accept what's going on with her, they're disconnecting themselves from their wife.
Yeah,
She
yeah,
she
you're
feels
right.
that you're like not
Hmm
with her, you're not present, you're not seeing her, right? That woman saying, "I don't feel seen." That's why, because
Yes.
you're
Yep.
disconnected. So, yeah, this presence is probably one of the most powerful skills because it's also associated with being non-reactive, right?
hmm Yeah, absolutely. And I guess it's, it also helps build some of the other lessons. I think really important lessons that I've learned is, and this is another big one, patience, right? This isn't gonna, yeah, if I've, I'm out of the course, or, I started the course 2 months ago and really turned things around, but I've got a long way to go. Patience is the name of the game. And it's, you know, you just can't rush, like I said, 30 years of marriage. You're not going to fix that in 2 weeks, 2 months, maybe not even 6 months. It's just got to be, patience. And, I think Near said this best, and I think this needs to be repeated. And I think it is at some point. Take sex out of the game. I see so many times like newer people, in the program, newer guys say, "Oh, I really miss, the sexual connection and stuff." Take it out of the game. Hey, priests go their whole lives without having sex, right? I'm a, I'm a Catholic, and I'm a, and I always think about that. I'm like, it's not like a need. That always bothers me when I hear, oh, I have a need, I have to satisfy. You don't have a need, you have a want, right? You don't need that. And if that muddles up that muddles up your recovery, it muddles up your own thinking if that's what you're leading with. And I try to tell people that. I try to tell the brothers that meant a lot to me. I let my wife reinitiate it, and that meant the world, to her and to me, because I think it was a big signal when she did.
I do honor guys how powerful that want is in men. But at the same time, to your point, I think a lot of men like it's funny. It's like everything's about sex except for sex. Have you heard of that statement before?
No, no, that's true though. That's a
I
good
think
one.
it's from the
Yeah.
divorce lawyer James Sexton. I heard him say it actually in his book.
Mhm.
So credit to him. But yeah, like sex is about power. It's about connect. It's about all these other
Mm,
things, right? And so I think if a lot to your point, if a man's like if he removes sex, he's like I'm not going to focus on like like that. There's so much need in there, right? The woman
mm.
feels the neediness of that, right? And
Right,
so
right.
the reason why that's so powerful to your point, I think is something that we should speak to is if you remove that, she doesn't feel pressure from you, right?
hmm hmm
And everything's paradoxical when it comes to women, I guess, which is like
Yeah,
the less
yeah.
likely you need it from her, you're more present with her, she's more likely to give it to you.
Yeah, yeah.
So
And it's funny too. One of the things when I originally separated, she said, just separate. She didn't tell me where to go, whatever. I went in the opposite direction. So I live in northern Massachusetts. My work is here. I went to Maine. So, I'm a half hour from work up here. I'm a half hour from work here, but now I'm an hour from the house. So she said, "Oh, why'd you go way up there? You have a girlfriend?" That's the first thing. And I said, "No." I said, "I'm getting away. I'm separating. I'm going out into the woods, and
uh,
I'm gonna, but that was really funny that she thought that, because that was the furthest thing from my mind. If you're gonna fix yourself, you can't let that muddle you, Um,
Amen.
so.
Yeah. So let's identify one more powerful lesson or insight from the program that's helped you.
Um, you know what? I think that's it's the not being a linear path is very helpful to realize too. I remember and you did this too. You the same thing. You go like this, you go like this, you go like this, you go. I just remember, after 2 weeks, I thought I was doing great. I said something back to zero, right? And then another 2 weeks of not talking, and it was a slow build back up. Um, and that's very important to realize. It doesn't mean failure. It doesn't mean anything else. It's just that it's going to be, and it's still happening, right? It's still doing that. We've got our dips, we've got our great days, we've got our not so great days, and that's going to happen, for the rest of our lives. And if there's anything I've learned from the past, I just want to make those dips not last as long, right? Those dips should shoot right back up. And I think this is, what I've learned. The presence being the biggest one of them is gonna minimize those dips. So.
Well, I thank you for bringing that up. It's such a great point to talk about that I don't discuss often, and that because so much of the journey is the inner game of your own mind, right? And how
Mm,
men they shoot themselves. I mean, let's look at an example of a guy who is considering joining this program, but he doesn't join because he's like, well, it's probably hopeless. It's like, yeah, if you think
mm,
it's hopeless, then it's hopeless because you're saying like my happiness is dependent on if I get her back or not, and that's the problem. And so usually the guy,
right,
it's
right.
so ironic here, John, that the reasons the guys choose to not join the program are the reasons why they're losing their wife.
Hmm.
Whether they need,
Yeah, it's true.
I need to ask my wife permission to join this program. It's like I understand from a financial perspective, you're married together and that big financial decisions, but like at the same time, if you were doing it for yourself as a man and it's an investment for yourself, you see what I mean? And
Hmm.
so, but that being, I don't want to go too much on a tangent. To your point of this, it's like what I think David Data says in his book, every moment with your woman is a test or a celebration, equally true of the world. And like it's like in your
Yeah,
business, whatever
yeah.
you do for your business, it's like has every moment been like this since you joined the business, or has there been
Hmm.
dips, right? And
Yeah.
so I think a lot of men they just can't sit with the down periods. But if you can
Mm,
flip your perception of it to say, in those moments when she is upset, in those moments where we are in conflict, that's where I get to prove myself as a man to make her feel
right.
something. Like tough seas. I mean, calm seas never made a good sailor is what I always
Hmm.
say. And it's like in those moments where you're difficult with her, it's like, oh, I get to show her that I have strength, I have presence, I have clarity, I have compassion for her. Those moments, like it's always easy when it's easy. You know what I
Right,
mean?
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So
Definitely, definitely. And it's when you go into those down periods that yeah, you're right. You need to show up. And that's when your strength comes out. And it's not every time you go into a down period, oh, here we are, pick up the phone and call the divorce lawyer. It's every time you go into a down period, it's an opportunity. So.
mhm. Yeah, and my philosophy, which you know well, is for the man that considers leaving his wife, it's like, well, that's going to show up in the next relationship because you're bringing yourself into the next.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
what has helped you kind of bounce back better? You said presence is one thing. Is there anything else that's helped you bounce back? Maybe like a mindset shift or a belief that you learned or adopted that's helped with like going bouncing back positively in those moments?
I think realizing that most of this, those mood shifts are temporary, and the more I read, and some of the modules said this, that those mood shifts aren't, for the most part, they aren't, they're not permanent, they're temporary, and they're going to swing, and they're going to, and that's what always helps me pull through, right? Is there's going to be, there's a John Denver song that some days are diamonds, some days are stones.
Hmm.
That's exact, then, and so I've got that. That's one of my mantras, and I'll say that to myself all the time. Today was a stone, but tomorrow's going to be a diamond, and maybe it's not a day, maybe it's 3 days, but the diamonds are well worth the stones.
And that okay, I want to pause right there because that is a gem of a line. The diamonds are worth the stones.
Yeah.
I'll self-disclose here a little bit. My previous relationship I had, I was really heartbroken, and there was a moment where I was like, you know what, screw this. I'm locking up my heart, and like,
Mm,
like, and this is years ago, and I was like, you know what, all the pain that I'm experiencing right now from the end of this relationship and everything that went on is worth getting the love that I had in that relationship as well.
mm-hmm,
And
mm-hmm,
and I had this beautiful meditation experience where I visualized this in that relationship, I saw this glass island above me. It was a giant island. It was made of glass and it was a heart. And half of the heart was pink. And it was all the positive memories with this woman, the dates,
mm,
the love, the memories, the laughter, all this stuff. But on the other side of the heart was all the yelling, the fighting, the all that bad stuff. And
yeah,
the image I was getting from all that, that it's all part of the love experience.
mm-hmm,
And I think and
yeah,
in our society, I think we think of like, oh, love is just going to be the positive stuff, and this other stuff is not love. No, it's all love.
mm-hmm.
It's all
It
love.
is. It is. Some of it's, and I told my wife that because you or Tom said in one of the calls, you have to embrace your wife's moods and tell her that, that you love that part of her. You love the bad part as well as the good part,
And
and
that's hard. It's
yeah,
hard. It's
and
not
it really
easy.
is.
It's
I said
not
that to
easy.
my wife, and she said I was full of shit. I said, I'm not though. So,
Well, you know
uh,
what? She's gonna test you because she's like, does he? Because in the pat, but like if you look
yeah,
at her in the eyes when she's upset and you're there with her, John, you're like, hey, and you look at her, you're like, you can give me more sadness, give me more anger, and
exactly.
you mean it. She's like,
Yep,
wow, this is the guy that I've wanted.
yep, yep. Yeah, and those tests, boy, I'll tell you, you said it over and over. Those tests come all the time, and they're not always, you know, she doesn't know they're tests, right? I mean, we call them that, but she doesn't know they're that. I had a question last night. She said, which would you rather have? Or, which hurts you more, hurting me, or me leaving you?
Mm,
And I said, well, that's a, you know, that's not a choice I want, but I said, definitely hurting you hurts more because I know
yeah,
I hurt you. And,
yeah.
she said, yeah, if you had said it the other way, I would have walked out, and she wouldn't have walked out, but she, yeah, but that's a test, right? They're ongoing. Yeah.
And at the end of it, it's when she's feeling unloved. It's not even when she's. I mean, yes, when she's feeling unloved, she will test you, but she's testing you as a means for you to show her that you love her. That's all.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Mm-hmm.
all. And
Yep.
if you can flip that, like a lot of guys when they first come into the program, they think you hear their narrative. I hear it all the time. They're like, "Oh, my wife, when she
Mm.
jabs at me, she stabs me. She's being vicious. She's doing." It's like if you perceive that she's trying to hurt you, you're gonna be defensive.
Yeah.
But
Yep.
if you, you
Yep.
know, obviously, but
Yeah.
if you're like, oh wow, my wife is in pain right now and she wants love, how do
Mm-hmm.
you show up differently when you think that instead, right? So yeah.
Yeah. Definitely.
John,
Definitely.
the last question I love asking guys on this call is an
Mm.
interesting one. It's if you can go back a year in a time machine with me, when you go back to yourself and you're going to give yourself a piece of advice he needs to hear to get you to where you're at now, what would you tell him?
Be present.
Oh,
Be present. Every time your wife opens her mouth, be present.
mm,
And that just carries a whole lot with it. Being the present not is really listening and really hearing, not just listening. And the only way you can do that is to push. It's just like meditation, right? Try to push the bad thoughts away, push that defensiveness away, push your response away. Just hear what she's trying to say.
John, this has been an amazing, amazing interview. Is there any questions you have for me or anything you want to say before we wrap up?
No, except thank you. Thanks for putting this out there. This is, I almost feel like this should be required. I went through, I don't know if you're familiar with Catholicism, but there's a course before you get married called pre-Cana, which,
Mm.
like the wedding of Canaan. And it was pre-Cana is just a preparation course for wedding, for
Oh,
for being married. But there should be more of this. You know, I could teach it and it just give those three main things, just and being present is the biggest. Being present, giving space, and just hearing. So
it's it's funny because I'll wrap up by saying this because like you can tell a Buddhist monk to be present and what it means to him is completely different. Someone who's meditated for 20 plus years versus like a
mm,
7-year-old be present. And so when you say that, so much of it, when guys hear that, it's like we tried to explain what it means, but presence means being connected to her, right? Like not getting in your own way essentially.
Yeah.
Um and also if we had more time we would discuss this, but identifying what are the things that are preventing you from being present.
Hmm.
Right. It's not so much about it is an action of actively doing, but oftentimes it's about removing the stuff that's in the way that's preventing you from being present with her, which oftentimes is like your thoughts of like, I need her to be this thing right now. Is that need?
Right.
Right. And
Yeah.
so if in you then taking space was letting go of that need. And we didn't talk about letting
Hmm.
go much, but it's a core tenet in the program as well. But I could talk to you, I'm sure, for a very long time, John. So, but I just want to say
It's
thank
all very interesting.
you.
It's a neat field. I mean, I'm an attorney and I'm in late stages of my career, but therapy to me is fascinating.
Yeah.
It's yeah, all of it. So
Thank you so much for showing up and sharing your story.
absolutely. Thank you. Thanks for being there.
All right. Take care.
All right, Josh. Take care. Bye-bye.